Hello, good morning. It is Sunday, June 18th, 2021. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm cutting a video here about many topics. I'm just going to talk about a few things, mostly about vaccines is my main discussion topic, but we'll also discuss some different updates. Okay, so I'm gonna be brief on one of my older videos that I cut around 4 years ago or so. I discussed a song "Killing in the Name of" by Rage Against the Machine, in which I didn't clarify something that's in the video that I kind of misinterpreted, and I just want to put this right. I put it in the caption, a comment below, clarifying what I had said, or kind of adding a comment so this way I can, make a better interpretation of what the song's about. And I just want to add that in the lyric where it says, in order to correct what I had in the video, because the video I say that those that use forces are the same. The lyric goes like this: those that use forces are the same that burn crosses. And what they're saying there is that those that work magic, being forces, like the force, the Jedi force is magic, are the same that burn crosses, being that the KKK is 11, 11, 11, 3, 11, 33. Those that work, they're all kind of on a similar team of people going to hell, is what I'm trying to say, if for lack of better words. And I kind of misinterpreted that to mean that the police are somehow on, the team, even though, in some way they are, because temporal authority is granted by the devil in some way, shape, or form to a certain extent, which is the devil in turn is copying the Bible a little bit, because, for example, don't steal, things like that, copies of the Bible seen in temporal law and earthly authority. But I misinterpreted that lyric, like those that work forces are the same that burn crosses, basically means that those that work magic, being forces, are the same that burn crosses, being. This is why you also have titles such as Grand Wizard in the KKK, and they're all actually controlled, of course, by a hierarchy, by a very close-knit coterie at the top who fund them all, basically, which is what we have going throughout all of human history, basically, is a small minority of very, very wealthy and influential people who live in the shadows who are funding these groups. So I just want to clarify that, because that video, I didn't really make good sense on that, and you got to know what that lyric means, and it basically says that we're all on the same team, and we're very similar, and we work together to a certain extent. Okay, so anyway, to get back on some topics here, you can kind of trust my channel, even though some people might say you can't trust my channel to a certain extent. I'm saying you can, verbatim, directly telling you that yes, you can to a certain extent. And I'll just outright admit it, the fact that yes, I am kind of what you might call a warlock to a certain extent, but I used to believe in God quite a bit. I used to be I still do actually believe in God. I worship God. I just happen to now, I'm outright admitting right now that yes, I'm a bit of a sinner lately, and I fell from God's the straightened path, let's say, mostly because it's a long story, is that the people around me are sinning quite a bit, and they are, and it basically rubs off on you. That's part of what happened. And they brain fried me half to death, which I'm gonna, not half to death, but quite a bit, let's say, to where it kind of messes up your moral compass a bit. And that's kind of what happened to me lately in the past couple of years, is that the people around me finally rubbed off on me. There's only so much resiliency I can take, and not, for example, you can't love neighbor as you love yourself, as the Bible says to do, if everyone around you is mean and nasty. You can't do it. It's very difficult to do. So I decided not to do it anymore. And I decided to say the heck with it. And this is kind of me outright admitting certain things. I'm going to probably cut that short here and stop talking about that, because I don't wish to talk much more about those topics, because it makes me look bad. But anyway, me outright admitting here, I'm just going to remain reticent on the rest of those topics for now, but I'm going to talk to you a bit about something. This is the example that you can trust my channel, because, even though I might, have changed my belief structure, let's say, I'm not outright engaging in outright lies, is what I'm trying to say. And the thing that I have under my belt is that I saw Filterless YouTube before they started lying a bit. They don't lie too much now, but they lie a little bit here and there, or they, to a certain extent. So that's one thing that I have under my belt, and I actually don't I don't engage in what they engage in because I've not been in for what's called therapy, so I'm not required to do such things, which is great, which is why you can partially trust my channel. The other thing that I do that I will apologize about is that I am sitting on top of like literally 10 or 15 videos or 20 videos, and I just don't cut them at all because I just don't, I don't have time partially. So it kind of sucks that I have a bunch of material that's great to get out there. And partially the reason why I don't cut too many videos is because people don't want to look at my channel sometimes. You know, they, the filter's up. People don't want to view my channel. And so therefore it's a lack of motivation on my part to make videos because who's going to really view them? Seriously. The people who are hacking my phone can view my videos, luckily. And I know for a fact that people might be hacking my phone, thank goodness. So this way they can view my stuff, because some of my information is very important to get out there, and some people will really seriously appreciate it. And there are people who want this stuff who can't get access to it because they have a filter on their YouTube channel. Anyway, so let me discuss briefly how my warlock like mentality has been predicting the future a bit lately. This is just one example, but there's a lot of other examples. I could cut a whole video on it too, because I wrote down a lot of the examples. I just have to compile them. But one thing I do lately is I write songs. I write like hip hop songs. And so I mean, one of my motifs for the earlier songs were that I kept on coming back from the dead in the songs. Okay, and in one way to look at it is that I kind of did come back from the dead a little bit, because they stopped brain frying me heavily, or they stopped doing the intense brain fry for the most part immediately as COVID round 1 kicked in the United States, in Oregon, and that was in 2019. So they stopped brain frying me, and I did kind of come back from the dead, so to say, and recover. And the sick thing is that out here I really haven't caught cold or the flu too much, maybe once, and it hasn't been too bad. What I did catch, though, was the brain fry, and that seriously has weakened me a bit. And that's the only thing that really has gotten me sick out here is the brain fry. It hasn't been anything else really, which is I'm thankful for. But at the same time, I did kind of come back from the dead because I was hobbling around a bit, and there was side effects, of course, obvious side effects, which I'll get into and I'll discuss a little bit here. In that, my joints were like even red in spots in where my, let's say where my foot enters into my leg joint, and where my, what do you call it, the patella something in the knee joint, there was redness around the joint area because, the joints like, the joints hurt, and so that's one way of looking at it. So anyway, yeah, so I kind of did come back from the dead, and then I convalesced, and I returned to health, so that was something that I did. So that's one way of looking at that and predicting the future. But other ways in which I'm predicting the future is that my one of my motifs in the later songs were something totally disgusting, in that I have fecal matter as my main motif in all the songs and all my new songs. And I might change the motif in the future because, well, I mean, let's face it, you gotta have novelties to spice of life. But I'm also like, here's me being a bit of a warlock, in that I obey the Ouroboros, to a certain extent, and that I change my image, which is why I change the image of the songs too as well. So anyway, but yeah, no, let's get on topic here, is that I have fecal matter mentioned in all my songs as the main motif. And now this is the other thing, is the other side effect is sometimes, thankfully this doesn't happen too much, but it happens every now and then, like it happened this morning, for example. I end up overeating to heal the microwaving, because they still microwave me, but my initial rounds of healing the microwaving were to basically take the blood and replace it with food, make new blood with food basically, and or vitamins. And so that was one thing I did, and as a result of that, I ended up defecating a lot, unfortunately. So anyway, so they basically, like, one way of looking at it is that, yeah, to be really scurrilous and disgusting, that's one thing that I'm doing, is that as a byproduct of the brain fry, I'm, defecating a lot. I'm trying to be quiet because there's some people nearby and I don't want them to hear me talking about stuff like this. But they, the good thing is that it comes and goes and doesn't happen all the time. But two ways of looking at it is that I was correcting the leukocyte cells in my body, to create fresh red blood cells. I was instead creating, fresh red ones, and not the leukocyte cells that are characteristic of leukemia. And so thankfully I don't have leukemia, I just happen to have some of the side effects of. The other way of looking at it is that when you get microwaved, it shrinks your body, it microwaves it from the inside out. And that's one of the things they do with the phone towers. So I'm basically getting microwaved, excuse me, from the inside out. And so it's shrinking my body, so my body in turn eats to heal, basically. It's not that I even remotely have cancer from it or anything like that. But those are the two reasons why I overeat, and then it comes and it goes. I basically overeat, and then I defecate a whole lot. And the motifs for my song were, of course, fecal matter. So I'm predicting the future in my songs, basically. And there's probably other ways in which I'm predicting the future in my songs, too, as well. I'd have to actually probably cut another video on that, and it'll be in the future, of course, because I haven't really thought clearly about how I'm predicting the future in my songs, but I probably am. So anyway, and we're going to get to the video discussion topic here a bit. And the video discussion today is on vaccines a bit and side effects. So you'll see I got images of hypodermic needles here and vaccines. So, okay, so one of the things that the elites appear to be doing is they wish to, they have people pleading not guilty for my brain fry, of course, but in turn, the elites are going to plead totally not guilty on the vaccine side effects and on all of that, because they can really easily get away with it, partially because, of course, there's no way to sue and be sued right now. But the other thing is that they designed the vaccines very, very clever, very, very precisely, I think, and they deliberately have a design on it in that, the vaccines are all different doses, and they're all different composition, I believe. If you were to mass spectrometer any of these, or and find out what's in them, you would probably find that they are all different and they're not entirely homogeneous batches of them. And the reason that works towards their advantage, I believe, that's one of the ways in which they might be doing this, is because you notice one of the ways. Okay, the reason why I'm drawing this conclusion is because, for example, the people who have the bad side effects, there's only a minority of people who have the bad side effects, and there's reasons for that. And there's other reasons, of course, but one reason is that each dose, because of course there's different companies that cut different doses, like Moderna, J&J, and Pfizer, they all have different VCs that they have created. So one way of looking at it is that they deliberately design different doses and different compositions of those doses to then give side effects only to a minority of people. So this way they can then plead not guilty entirely on any side effects at all, because they can use a common wizard technique, which is misdirection, which is look over here, not over there, to basically say, hey, it's not our fault that this happened, and exactly they will plead not guilty. And so basically, okay, so we have that aspect to it. And you look at it like this, any way that you cut it, you look at the VCs, and you even the so-called good doses, let's say, probably still have heavy metals in them. You get at least a dose of that, but the bad doses will probably have, let's say, the bad side effects of, let's say, Parkinson's. People get the Parkinson's-like symptoms where they got the jitterbugs. So we have that aspect to it. Now, the other thing is that the other way of looking at it is that different people are going to react differently to a poison in their body. So some people will get those side effects because that's just the way their body and brain reacts to it. That's one way of looking at it. Now, the other way of looking at it is okay, let me see. The other way of looking at it is that the elites kind of live like it's Star Trek to a certain extent. They really do. They kind of live like this, they live in a high-tech world that they've created, and it really is. It's a house of sinking sand, as it says in the Bible. And so they have high-tech that they utilize. And so one thing that they can do that is possible, that is just a theory, that I don't even know if they can do this, but they could potentially do this since they utilize microwaves at night when people sleep, and they utilize microwaves in general as directed energy towards people. So one thing that they can do is they've created a long time ago in the 90s, Lucent Technologies created a set of DNA tweezers. Now, DNA tweezers could be shrunk down to RNA size and could be made into a set of RNA-like tweezers. Now, why is that important? Because you could take a set of DNA tweezers and make them into a switch if you wanted to, and you could turn things on and off after they've gone into the body. And how would you do that? You would have to hit the body with a microwave, and it would wreck the switch and deteriorate it, and then you'd have a different set of molecules that form as a result of wrecking these switches or turning the switches on and off. Now, that does sound super high-tech, and I don't think that's actually the case that they did, but this goes to show you the level of technology that they have, is that they have a set of DNA tweezers that could potentially one day act as a switch, but what they probably are using DNA tweezers for are things like CRISPRs and things like that, and that they can pick genes and stuff. So it's probably a fallacy of mine to think that, hey, they can do this, which I don't think they can. I think that my interpretation of the VCs kind of speak for themselves. Let me grab up, let me just check my file though, just to make sure I discussed all my topics. I gotta remove that. Okay, so the other thing to consider is that what they are doing is they're taking the people who are VC'd and they're kind of like not coming back from therapy, and so this removes guilt from their palate as well, in that the side effects are no longer noticeable because the person is now gone and dead. They've been terminated. So anyway, we have that aspect to it as well, because the people around me, some of whom who have taken it, have not coming back from what they call therapy, and are in fact, let me get the image back, and are in fact done. They're I think they were killed. Okay, so we have that aspect to it. We also have the fact that how this plays out into the bigger scheme of the plan is that it is in fact a eugenics type plan to a certain extent, in that they're wrecking, they're basically making an inferior group of people, because the side effects are at the very least going to probably give the offspring of people developmental disorders such as autism. Because in the 80s, the rates of autism didn't really start spiking upward until people started taking these vaccines that were developed in the 80s. And you can notice a correlation between those vaccines and the spike and increase in autism. And as a brief history of vaccines will show you, that I can show you right now, in that, even the vaccines developed by, for polio, let's say, this is when the vaccines started to become bad, let's say, or when they started to sneak things in on them. The initial start that I'm aware of it is the polio vaccine, and this was information brought to me by Enter the Stars in his channel. And so he discusses how the rhesus monkey vaccine developed for polio, developed from the rhesus monkey, I believe embryos or DNA or something along those lines, was basically giving people, a minority of people who took that vaccine got cancer from it. So that shows you the things that they do when they sneak things in on vaccines. Now, the other thing they sneak in on vaccines is infertility treatments. They did this in Brazil in the lower 2000s. So this goes to show you where the tech has gone throughout history, what they've done with it, and now we have what they have now, which is basically like designed to, and this is, I'm just going to discuss briefly like the plan. The plan is basically, portions of the plan include the fact that the elites are, a big portion of them are kind of fascist, and so it's kind of like survival of the fittest, in that they've now designated groups of people to take it and to be weakened by it. And if you can make it and get by with the vaccine, then you are therefore very tough, and it's like survival of the fittest almost to a certain extent, because the elites actually do believe in some sort of social Darwin theory. And I'm lucky they haven't taken my freedoms and still back me a bit, and I'm on what I would call okay terms with them, even though I do talk against them because they don't like what I'm saying on this channel, of course. But anyway, but they respect me and honor me, and I have a respect and honor for them. In exchange, we have a unspoken contract and or deal, because I do hold some respect for them, and if anything, I extol them a bit, because some of the things they do are very impressive, and they help me and they favor me, and I probably shouldn't talk about that much, but hey, that's the case in point. But anyway, long story short, so that's the case in point of like what they're doing with that portion of the VC, is that it's survival of the fittest. So therefore it's the original plan of the elites to a certain extent, to basically cull through a good portion of humanity and have some eugenics type thing go down. Because the other thing is that the VC, will help accomplish the multifaceted plan of basically wrecking human DNA and the human genome. So this way we lead ourselves into the mark of the beast. And that's partially why they want a lot of people to take it as well, is that it's not just like a fascist thing, it's a wreck humanity type thing and get humanity living a different way other than what God intended, other than a way in which God intended. So that's partially why they demand, they want as many people vaccinated as they can. And it really does, it kind of like, it declares humans as almost useless in some regards, because like what it's going to do, if you get the bad side effects from it, you can't go back to work. You got to be on unemployment because you can't go to work with the jitterbugs with Parkinson-like symptoms. Oh, exactly. And here's another way in which I'm predicting the future, and I'll be very brief. I've made, this is me being, not a good guy, and I make jokes, and I made up a dance called just to be funny, I made up a dance called, I just decided to get creative and make up a dance called the Parkinsons. This was before the COVID came out and before the vaccine came out. And, and apparently one of the side effects of the VC is Parkinson-like symptoms. So it's like, there's me predicting the future again. You get these Parkinson-like symptoms, and I present it. This is one thing I do frequently, in that I do predict the future fairly frequently. And I'll give another example that's more in my memory a bit, and I have written down the rest of them, but this is one that's on my head right now, is that in my job, I'm saying the words, I said the word I am in Spanish like 3 times, because I used to talk to one of my colleagues in Spanish a bit, and then I think it was later in the day, I'm then watching a video that has I am in it, and it's like not planned for it to be in that video to to be not mirroring me, but to be reflecting me in any way. It's there because it just happens to be. There was actually an Enter the Stars video, and frequently what I do is I actually predict some of what he has on his videos occasionally, not too often, but every now and then, and this is one way in which I'm like a warlock almost, because warlocks do this. So that's one thing that a warlock does, is warlock does things like divination to predict the future and sorcery to predict the future. And that's one thing that the elites actually engage in almost non-stop in entertainment, is that they use their sorcery to give predictive programming and to predict the future. And it's very nice in the fact that the elites do this for us, and that that's one thing I'm doing lately with my free time, is I'm doing just that. I'm trying to get the future off of videos. It's just sometimes it's fruitless, and I don't have all the time in the world to watch videos, because I actually don't like sitting there for too long watching videos. But hey, I do it now, and yeah, it's a hobby. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this video off, and I hope you guys got something from it. If you guys are able to even watch my channel, all right, have a good day.